Welcome to today's deep dive. And today we have a really fascinating mission.
Yeah, we're getting into the real nuts and bolts today.
We really are. Our mission is to pull back the curtain on this massive, totally invisible supply chain that, basically keeps the world's physical infrastructure running.
The stuff that happens long before a product ever gets anywhere near your local mechanic.
Exactly. And our source material for this exploration is a detailed look at the digital storefront of a platform called Altonex Global. They're a massive global B2B trade platform specializing in lubricants and automotive parts.
Right, and it's a world that, honestly, most of us never see. I mean, we spend our entire lives at the absolute tail end of the global supply chain.
Yeah, as consumers.
Exactly. And that deeply conditions how we think commerce works.
Yeah.
So when we look at a platform like Altonex Global, our retail-trained brains just kind of struggle to process it.
Oh, totally. The scale, the rules, the financial physics, it's all entirely alien to everyday consumer shopping, which is why we are exploring this specific digital storefront today.
It's basically a masterclass in how global trade actually functions.
Right. So to really understand this world, I want you, the listener, to picture what happens when, say, a massive multinational commercial trucking fleet or maybe an entire country's network of auto repair franchises suddenly needs supplies.
They definitely aren't just logging onto a website and putting a credit card in.
No, absolutely not. They don't just add items to a digital shopping cart and hope for 2-day shipping. Exploring a platform like Altonex is it's almost like sneaking past the dining room of a massive multinational restaurant network and walking straight into their wholesale kitchen.
I love that analogy. You aren't looking at the menu anymore.
Exactly. You're no longer looking at the glossy consumer menu with the carefully curated pictures. You are looking at like 50-pound bags of flour, raw supply contracts, and just the fundamental ingredients of global industry.
And our goal today is to decode the mechanics of that wholesale kitchen. We really want to understand how these physical goods are negotiated, how they're aggregated, and then shipped across entire oceans.
But to do that, we kind of have to start with the actual architecture of the site itself, right?
Yeah, because it completely shatters our everyday expectations of e-commerce.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because I mentioned the consumer shopping cart earlier, but on the Altonex Global site, there is absolutely no checkout button.
Not at all.
You can browse thousands of items, but there is literally no direct payment system anywhere to be found.
Right, because the entire platform operates on what's called an RFQ first model.
RFQ being request for quotation.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
A buyer explicitly states what they need, and then the suppliers provide offers based on that very specific request.
And what's wild is that Altonex explicitly states that they hold zero stock.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have a giant warehouse with the Altonex logo on the side of it somewhere.
No, they don't hold physical inventory, and they actually don't even take a cut of a credit card transaction.
So the individual suppliers are the ones managing the stock, handling the delivery, issuing invoices, and, dealing with warranties.
All of it. The suppliers handle the actual mechanics of the trade.
So this is where I have to play devil's advocate and push back a bit. Because if Altonex doesn't take the money and they don't hold the physical inventory, aren't they just like a glorified digital matchmaking service?
That's a really common reaction.
I mean, why wouldn't a fleet manager just use a search engine to find these manufacturers directly and cut the matchmaking platform out altogether?
What's fascinating here is that a standard search engine just gives you scattered links to isolated factory websites. And the reliability of those sites varies wildly.
Right. You never really know what you're going to get.
Exactly. It doesn't give you standardized procurement infrastructure. In global B2B trade, flexibility and trust are far more valuable than a simple buy now button.
Because discovering a reliable partner is historically a huge friction point, right?
Oh, massively.
Yeah.
Historically, finding a legitimate manufacturer for something like heavy-duty truck air disc brake pads meant you had to fly to international trade shows.
Wow, literally flying across the world.
Yeah, hiring local fixers, navigating massive information asymmetry just to make sure the factory actually physically existed. But a platform like Altonex provides a verified ecosystem.
So it's basically aggregating suppliers into standardized digital booths.
Yes, and that allows a buyer to submit just one single RFQ and have it routed to multiple vetted manufacturers simultaneously.
Oh, I see. So it's really about eliminating the friction of discovering these global partners.
Far more than just discovering them, it accommodates the sheer logistical complexity of what these buyers are actually doing. These aren't just one-off purchases. They are the beginnings of high-stakes, long-term supply relationships.
And the platform actually offers distinct pathways depending on the buyer's operational needs,
Right.
right?
You have local supply for immediate regional availability. You have wholesale for bulk quantities, which usually has tiered pricing.
And then you get into the heavy logistics like the export pathway.
Yeah, the export pathway is built for international buyers doing FOB sourcing, literally moving entire container loads across oceans.
Let's pause on that term for a second, FOB. The source material defines it as free on board, but what does that actually mean in practice for the person buying the goods?
Free on board is a crucial international commerce term. It dictates exactly when liability and ownership transfer from the seller to the buyer.
Okay, so how does it work?
Well, when a contract is negotiated FOB, it means the supplier is responsible for the goods, the costs, and all the risks, only up until the exact moment that cargo container is loaded over the rail of the outbound shipping vessel.
Wait, literally over the rail of the ship.
Literally. Once that container physically crosses the plane of the ship's rail, the risk instantly flips to the buyer.
Wow. So the buyer then pays for the oceanic freight, the marine insurance, the unloading at the destination port, all of that.
All of it.
That is a high-stakes legal dance. I mean, you're negotiating the precise geographical inch where $1 million of liability transfers hands.
And that leads directly into why there is no buy now button on the site.
Meh.
The final landed price of a shipping container full of, say, industrial lubricants isn't static.
Because it fluctuates daily, right? Based on global shipping indices and stuff.
Exactly. Global shipping costs, bunker fuel surcharges, raw chemical prices, they change constantly. If Altonex forced a static checkout price, suppliers would go bankrupt, the second oceanic freight rates spiked.
So the RFQ model basically forces a real-time negotiation based on whatever the current global conditions are.
Precisely. And that makes the private label pathway they offer even more complex.
Yeah, the source notes that buyers can actually request OEM filling and custom branding. I have to imagine that is way more involved than just a warehouse worker slapping a branded sticker on a plastic bottle.
Oh, private labeling at this scale is an intense logistical operation. OEM stands for Original Equipment Manufacturer. When a buyer requests a private label run, they're negotiating for dedicated factory time.
So the supplier's taking raw base oils and blending them with specific chemical additives?
Yeah, to meet the buyer's regional viscosity requirements. Then pumping that custom formulation into thousands of drums on an automated line and printing the buyer's corporate logo directly onto the packaging during the actual manufacturing process.
Which you obviously cannot facilitate with a standard e-commerce shopping cart.
Not a chance.
So if the platform is just the routing architecture for these complex requests, who is actually on the receiving end?
That's where we look at the specific suppliers.
Yeah, because the source material zooms in on one featured supplier, and looking at their digital booth illustrates this staggering, just mind-boggling scale of modern global vendors.
It really does. The supplier is called GH Lubricant.
Right, and they are based in the Ajman Free Zone of the United Arab Emirates.
The location alone tells a really significant story about how global logistics flow today.
Well, why the Ajman Free Zone specifically? Like, what makes a free zone different from just building a massive warehouse in a major city?
So free trade zones in the UAE are specific economic areas designed to act as frictionless legal and logistical sandboxes for global trade.
Frictionless how?
Well, if you build a warehouse in a standard jurisdiction, you often have to deal with complex import taxes the moment goods cross the border, even if you just plan to re-export them right away.
And there might be restrictions on foreign ownership too, right?
Exactly. But in a UAE free zone, a company like GH Lubricants typically enjoys 100% foreign ownership, zero import or export duties, and zero corporate taxes for goods passing through to other countries.
Wow. And because the UAE sits at a geographic crossroads between Asian manufacturing hubs, European markets, and African development.
Operating out of a free zone allows a supplier to act as a massive, untaxed staging ground for the entire planet.
Here's where it gets really interesting. When you look at the catalog GH Lubricants is staging in that free zone, the sheer variety totally shatters the idea of a specialized factory.
The numbers are pretty wild.
Yeah. This single digital booth lists 272 different products. We're talking 140 products in automotive lubricants, 39 industrial lubricants, 18 marine, 21 specialty lubricants.
And then the hard parts.
Right, completely out of nowhere you see hard parts. Filters, batteries, tires, spark plugs, brake pads. I was looking at their catalog, and one digital booth is selling something called benzol transformer oil naphthenic uninhibited.
which is a highly specialized fluid used in electrical infrastructure.
Right. And right next to it, they are selling activated carbon cabin air filters for a Tesla Model 3. And next to that, deep cycle AGM batteries for solar backups.
It's like walking into a convenience store and realizing they sell chewing gum and also industrial power grid supplies.
Exactly. How is that physically possible? A chemical refinery cooking up transformer oil is not the same facility pressing carbon into Tesla cabin filters.
Well, it's not. And that observation hits on the core strategy of a modern mega supplier. GH Lubricants is almost certainly not manufacturing all 272 of those disparate items in one giant shed in Ajman.
So what are they doing?
They are operating as a massive supply chain node, essentially an aggregator. They hold the relationships with specialized chemical plants, battery manufacturers, and tire factories all across the globe.
Oh, I see. They consolidate those disparate manufacturing lines into one unified catalog under their banner.
Right. So they aren't just selling the physical oil or the physical battery. They are selling the service of aggregation.
That is brilliant.
If we connect this to the bigger picture,
Yeah.
you see why this creates an incredible strategic moat. Imagine you manage procurement for a massive regional logistics company, or maybe a mining operation.
Okay, so my fleet would have a ton of different needs.
Huge variety. Your fleet contains everything from heavy excavators requiring multi-grease EP3 to transport trucks needing 12-volt batteries,
Passenger vehicles needing performance tires.
and maybe even transport ships requiring specialized marine system oils.
Managing that would be an absolute nightmare. You'd have to negotiate FOB contracts and track ocean freight for, what, a dozen different niche factories?
At least, which requires a massive procurement team. But by offering everything under one roof, GH Lubricants positions itself as a single-point industrial concierge.
Ah, so that fleet manager can just send one massive RFQ to GH Lubricants for a mixed container load.
Exactly. The supplier does all the heavy lifting of sourcing the chemical drums from the refinery and the brake pads from the stamping plant,
Packing them into a single shipping container in the UAE.
and negotiating a unified freight rate. They eliminate the procurement headache for complex industrial buyers.
But building a massive aggregated catalog like that creates a new, really complicated problem, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, how do you price things when your buyers range from tugboat captains to massive auto shop networks? You have to balance the sheer volume of goods with the cost of doing business.
True.
And the deep dive highlights some shocking unit prices listed on the site, but they all come with major strings attached, specifically MOQs or minimum order quantities.
The hidden economics of global trade.
Yeah, let's look at spark plugs, for example. They have Iridium iX spark plugs for Toyota and Lexus. The price listed is between 15 and 25 cents a piece.
A price that feels like a typographical error to anyone who has ever visited a local auto parts store.
It really is stunning. But the catch is the MOQ. To get that spark plug, you must order a minimum of 2,000 pieces.
Right.
Moving down the list, heavy-duty truck air disc brake pads are listed at $21 a set, with a minimum order of 50 sets. Tires, like the Touring Max all-season passenger tires, start at $10 a piece, but you have to order at least 100 of them.
But then the pattern breaks.
Yes. Suddenly the numbers shift. Under the filters category, they list a marine fuel water separator. The price jumps to between $14 and $20 a piece, but the MOQ is remarkably low.
Just 3 pieces.
Just 3. Why make a buyer order 2,000 spark plugs but allow them to buy only 3 marine water separator? Is this just about the physical dimensions of the shipping box, or is there a deeper mathematical strategy at play here?
This raises an important question about how this stuff is calculated. Physical dimensions in shipping logistics do play a role, for sure, but MOQs are fundamentally a masterclass in supply chain velocity and end-user behavior.
Supply chain velocity?
It refers to how quickly a specific item is consumed and replaced in the market. Spark plugs, for common consumer vehicles, are high-turnover consumables.
So they have high velocity because every passenger car burns through them eventually.
Right. Producing, packaging, and shipping them only makes economic sense at a massive scale. When a supplier is selling an item for 15 cents, their profit margin is, fractions of a penny.
Oh, wow.
The administrative cost of having a human sales agent read an RFQ, generate a pro forma invoice, check global shipping rates, and arrange freight forwarding, that is significant.
So if they allowed a buyer to just purchase 50 spark plugs for $7, the administrative labor alone would wipe out the profit margin 100 times over.
Exactly. The 2,000 unit minimum is a barrier to entry. It ensures the total contract value is high enough to justify the sheer paperwork of global trade.
It actively filters out casual buyers and signals that they only deal with major regional distributors
But the marine filter operates in a totally different reality.
because it serves a highly specialized, slower-moving fleet market.
Exactly. A regional buyer in the marine sector might only operate a fleet of 3 tugboats, and a single vessel might only require that specific filtration unit to be replaced once per maintenance season.
So if GH Lubricants set the MOQ for those marine separators at 2,000 units,
They would freeze out the actual market.
uh,
Almost no one on Earth needs 2,000 specialized tugboat filters at once. Even a massive commercial shipyard wouldn't want to tie up capital storing that much specialized inventory.
so the supplier dynamically adjusts the MOQ down to 3 to map perfectly onto the behavioral reality of the fleet manager.
They are reverse engineering the business model of the person buying the parts.
That makes so much sense. And there is another crucial detail tied to all of these numbers. Next to that 15-cent spark plug and next to that $10 tire, the platform explicitly marks the price as indicative.
Right. An indicative price is basically a public starting line for negotiation. It's an indicator of what is possible under optimal conditions.
So it's not a guaranteed price at all.
No. If you submit an RFQ for the bare minimum of 2,000 spark plugs and you want them shipped to a port with high current freight rates, the supplier might quote you 30 cents apiece.
But if you submit an RFQ for 200,000 spark plugs,
Suddenly, you are unlocking that 15-cent floor price. The entire architecture of indicative pricing is built to reward scale and incentivize long-term relationship building over single transactional purchases.
so what does this all mean? Let's bring this vast global architecture back down to the ground.
Yeah, let's connect it back.
The next time you take your car to the local mechanic for a routine oil change, or you ask them to swap out a dirty cabin air filter, you now possess a map of the sprawling global journey that part took.
You can visualize the whole invisible system.
You can visualize the digital B2B trade expos like Altonex Global. You can imagine the complex RFQ negotiations factoring in real-time ocean freight costs. You can picture those massive digital booths operating out of the unpacked Ajman free zone, just aggregating hundreds of disparate products into a single container.
And you understand the wild 15-cent bulk economics and strict minimum order quantities that made your afternoon auto repair physically possible.
You are touching the very end of a massive globally negotiated chain.
And understanding that hidden chain fundamentally changes how you perceive the physical world around you. But there is one final, really provocative detail hidden in the architecture of the Altonex platform that points to where this entire system is heading next.
Oh, what's the detail?
So the platform supports an incredibly massive array of languages.
Okay.
And we are not just talking about English, Spanish, and Mandarin. The site is actively localized for Africans, Cebuano, Ajman, Zulu, Gallego, Maltese, and dozens of others.
Wow, that's expensive.
Right. It is a system built from the ground up to facilitate complex haggling between humans anywhere on the planet.
Yeah.
But we are currently living in an era where artificial intelligence and instant context-aware translation are advancing at lightning speed.
Oh, I see where you're going with this, because AI isn't just translating word for word anymore. It understands negotiation tactics and industry-specific context.
Exactly. Which leads to an incredible thought experiment for the future of global logistics.
Let's hear it.
If prices are currently indicative and require a human buyer to spend days haggling via email with a human supplier over MOQs, bunker fuel surcharges, and FOB liability, what happens when we remove the humans?
Wait, really? You think platforms like this will eventually use AI to automate the entire RFQ negotiation process?
Why not? Imagine an AI procurement agent monitoring the inventory levels of an American trucking fleet. When brake pads run low, that AI instantly pings an AI sales agent representing GH Lubricants in the UAE.
Oh, wow.
And they instantly analyze global shipping indices, raw material costs, and historical relationship data.
They could negotiate a complex, multivariable ocean freight contract in milliseconds.
Precisely. The human haggling element could be eliminated entirely. We could see a future where these indicative prices are transformed into instant, algorithmically generated smart contracts.
Executed seamlessly across dozens of languages before a human fleet manager even realizes the inventory was low.
It's totally feasible.
The raw ingredients of global industry, just dynamically priced and negotiated by algorithms. It brings us right back to our original analogy.
The wholesale kitchen.
Yeah, we thought we were just peeking into the wholesale kitchen to see how the soup of global trade is made, but it turns out the entire kitchen is on the verge of a massive technological upgrade.
It's a fascinating look at where the lifeblood of our physical infrastructure is right now and exactly where it is heading next.